This video is brought to you by NordVPN. More about them later in the video.
The kids, I think, in many ways are more spontaneous than adults because they haven't learned to censor things yet. They haven't gotten to the age where they know it's not right to say that because it's not socially acceptable. So kids really say what comes into their mind first, and if I can get that on the first take, all these happy mistakes, then it's going to make the film a lot more spontaneous.
If you're a director, working with kids can be difficult. Their innocence and unpredictability can be a strength, but also a frustrating obstacle.
There's nothing like that, penis breath!
Elliott! Sit down.
And depending on their age, they keep getting interrupted all day because they have to go to school, on set. You have to make the most of your time with them and make it playful.
There's going to be a three-way screaming match. On three. 1, 2, 3.
Acting is, in a big way, a form of play, and if you're someone that is able to do that with your child actors, talk to them like equals, encourage exploration, and create a comfortable atmosphere on set, then you can pull it off. Then, like Goonies director Richard Donner, you can take a break with some peace and quiet somewhere tropical for a few weeks, precisely because you're exhausted from the nonstop, sometimes annoying kid energy. And if you're like Steven Spielberg, you might think it's funny to put all those kids on a plane and surprise Richard on the very first day of his vacation by just barging into his home with all the kids and a camcorder to record his reaction.
Hey, Dick, we're gonna stay with you the whole time you're here! Shut up!
But you know, Spielberg's a playful guy. I know there have to be moments when he's just wanted to pull his hair out, but something that he's been consistently great at is directing actors. He seems to know exactly the magic words to say to elicit a compelling performance, and he's especially good at doing this with children.
Something is making you brave. Something's making you get closer and closer to the cornstalk. Although I would use the flashlight as a weapon, meaning if you're afraid, I think rather than holding the flashlight comfortably down here, you'd hold it out like that. It's kind of like a lance, a magic user lance.
Using a mountain of behind-the-scenes footage from his first very personal film, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, as evidence, I want to dive into exactly how he works with kids, and more specifically, how he managed to draw out one of the most powerful performances from a child actor in film history. But before we phone home, let's quickly talk about NordVPN. Right now, when you use my link, nordvpn.com/thebackfocus, you'll get an amazing discount on a 2-year plan, plus 4 additional bonus months. And it's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sadly, I'm not the most tech-savvy guy, nor do I have an extraterrestrial friend who can create an advanced communication device with a speak and spell and an umbrella. But thankfully, NordVPN is like that magical alien friend I always needed. I have the app set up here on my computer, and if I hit the quick connect button here, it just finds the best server for my location, and just like that, I'm secure. But I can also change my location by selecting a huge list of countries over on the side here. This makes it so I'm not limited to my own region to watch various films and TV shows. I don't know if I can change my IP address to, like, outer space so I can watch E.T.'s favorite shows and movies. But regardless, I can change my server to various countries in Europe, which is very helpful when I'm researching various actors' early roles. Plus, I installed it on my phone, which protects me and my data when I'm using public Wi-Fi at the mall, a hotel, or the gym. And I can install NordVPN on up to 6 devices, so you know those pesky government agents won't be able to find me or ET when we just want to chill in the bathroom after a rough night. So to recap, if you want the ultimate privacy that protects you from malicious sites, downloads, trackers, or intrusive ads, as well as a variety of other cool features like peer-to-peer sharing, custom VPN connection settings, ultra-fast connections, uninterrupted streaming, and so many other things, then check out NordVPN. Once again, go to nordvpn.com/thebackfocus to get an amazing discount on a 2-year plan plus 4 additional months. Again, risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The reason E.T. is kind of the quintessential example of how important it was to work well with the child actors is that it's a very personal story from Spielberg. He didn't admit this until much later after the film came out, but it's essentially a parallel to his own childhood and how divorce affected his family.
Maybe you ought to call your father and tell him about it.
I can't. He's in Mexico with Sally.
So as a choice, he decided to tell this story from the perspective of children.
Close Encounters was told from the point of view of adults, but E.T. was going to be about kids. It was about the empowerment of that family, those kids in that family.
To accentuate this, Spielberg chose to never show the face of an adult, with the exception of the mother, until much later in the film.
The nature of the movie is to silhouette all adult faces or show backs of heads over shoulders, hands, adult hands, but never identify adults as personalities.
Even Harrison Ford, huge name, recognizable face, is in the film in a deleted scene as the principal, and they never show him.
I see you fine young people from good homes, every advantage.
So if you're doing that, you're telling the story from the point of view of a kid, you'd better have a kid who can carry the film. Enter Henry Thomas. And I'm sure you guys have seen his audition tape. It continues to go viral, but it's no less incredible to me watching it for the 50th time because it's just perfect. And Spielberg famously said at the end of it,
"Okay, kid, you got the job."
Something interesting about this audition, though, that I didn't know was that it was all improvised. What Spielberg did there was very smart, and it's something that's useful to do with a child actor, and that's providing him or her with an as-if scenario. Because children don't have a lot of life experience to draw from, you give them comparisons in a pretend scenario. Play it as if X, Y, and Z is happening.
Steven said, well, let's do an improvisation. Here's a situation. You found this creature and you love it, and it's like your dog. You have a dog at home? Yeah, I have a dog. Well, it's like your dog. It's kind of like your pet, and they're trying to take it away from you. The government's going to take it away and do experiments.
But it's not my choice. The president asked me to come here and get him.
I don't care what the president says. He's my best friend. And you can't take him away.
And that's already a unique and powerful ability for a child to have something feel that real and just tap into it on an instinctive level. This brings us to something else that Spielberg did that helped, which was shooting the scenes from the script in chronological order. Now that's something that's not traditionally done for most movies. They typically shoot scenes out of order to accommodate schedules and maximize time at certain locations. And that can be an emotional challenge for any actor because, one day they might film a scene for an exhausting climax and then the following day shoot something at the beginning of the script. To be able to go on your character's dramatic journey from beginning to end is tremendously more helpful than shooting out of sequence.
So the kids knew emotionally where they had been the day before, and they pretty much didn't have any idea where they were going the next day.
You can see this journey happen with Henry in real time. Like the first scene Henry had with E.T., Spielberg still had to use the as-if dog scenario for Henry sometimes.
I need you to pretend that it's nothing more than an animal. It's some sort of a deformed cross between a coyote and a rabbit. All of a sudden it's showing great intelligence. And that cracks you up. This little Cocker Spaniel was touching his head with, two paws. And waving at you, and it's amazing.
But as shooting progressed and Henry worked more and more with E.T., he began to feel actual feelings for it. It's almost like the relationship began to seep into his subconscious. He was even dreaming about it.
There was real ETs, and there's like one, and he was in the house playing with. All of a sudden, he heard this giant noise. We went outside, then there's this spaceship. No, really, I had this dream.
The same emotional connection was happening to young Drew Barrymore as well. At just 6 years old, she already had this wild imagination.
She's imaginative and stuff like that, and she introduced E.T. to her mom, and she goes, Mom, he wouldn't move because they were off the controls and all, but he goes, he's just a little shy now. He doesn't want to talk to you right now, but he's just a little shy. It was kind of weird.
He's really real.
Why are all those wires? Those aren't wires, those are his feet. Didn't you know that?
Any smoke left, Steven? Is it all gone?
Those are his feet.
Drew, go back to your mark a second, please, honey.
And has said in multiple interviews that she genuinely thought, like on a gut level, that E.T. was real.
E.T. was absolutely real to me. I understood that it took mechanics and some people being in his suit and a woman doing his hands to make him manifest and come alive. But I just thought that he was a guardian angel, very real to me, and a good friend, and someone who was teaching me a lot about love and how to take care of someone and how to treat people. And because he was there, because he wasn't computer generated, I mean, he was a very real, tangible being. And that's something that, you know, in this day and age in our technology, we don't have that luxury anymore of being so intimate with an alien, so to speak. And that makes him all the more real.
Apparently, the actress who played their mother, Dee Wallace, noticed one day that Drew would approach the E.T. puppet and just talk to it a lot, even when nobody was operating it. And Spielberg had an idea.
We found you over there just talking away to E.T. And so we let Stephen know, and so Stephen, from that time on, appointed 2 guys to keep E.T. alive, so whenever you came over to talk to him, he could react to you.
As Spielberg continued to shoot scenes chronologically and the film became more serious in tone, Henry, Drew, and the rest of the cast didn't really need to act anymore. During the scene where the doctors are trying to revive E.T. with the electric paddles, Drew was a mess.
I know the people were trying to save him, but it didn't matter. I just thought everything in the world was hurting this person, and it was destroying me inside. I couldn't stand seeing pain brought to someone who brought so much pleasure with them.
Movies are so sad, especially this one. Is that a pension?
Now, this is where Spielberg's aptitude for communicating with children really started to come in handy. There's no doubt that he sensed Henry's real emotions he was going through, and his conversations with Henry became much more private, talking in low voices and whispers as he matches the somber energy of the room.
I wish that I could go back in time and you could be with me upstairs.
Right. Yeah. Which we can go back in time to yesterday, right? You can be upstairs.
And all of this leads to the finale. The entire cast is brought to an intricately designed soundstage for the tearful goodbye to E.T. as he gets on his ship to go home. This scene is just one of those magical moments where reality and fantasy blur together. Sure, the characters are all at the tail end of their journey, but the actors are also at the end of their real-life journey, working on a life-changing film after 3 months of shooting. They've all gotten to know each other and E.T., and the experience has been so positive, and now it's all coming to an end.
All the kids just were trying to hold it together. And if I did 3 or 4 or 5 takes, the kids fell apart on each take because they knew that they weren't going to see E.T. again.
That's something real to draw from. I mean, that's beautiful and sad on its own. So, you know, when they're saying goodbye to E.T., they're literally saying goodbye to the experience and each other. I love this moment where Spielberg gently explains to Henry the sequence of events of his goodbye to E.T.
E.T. is going to put his hands on your shoulders, and he's going to bring you in for a hug. And you'll hug this side of E.T. You'll have your head on this side, and you'll just hug for a while. Or just have you hugging for a while. And then you'll separate, and E.T. will point right to your forehead, right between your eyes. And he says, right here. He says, I'll be right here. And you'll reach out your hand, you just sort of touch his cheek. And he has a little tear in his eye, just pretend there's a tear, then you'll wipe a tear away from E.T.'s face. And we'll play it that way. Okay? Real softly and gently, and no rush. Sure. Okay, so just walk over and think about it for a while, okay? Just be by yourself for a few minutes.
And then he wisely tells Henry to go spend some time alone. You need to take a few minutes. And then right before they shot the scene, Spielberg only had to whisper 3 words to him. This is it.
And at that point, Henry just knew exactly what his heart broke open. And he held it back, and when I said action, it just all came flooding forth.
Stephen talked me through it, and he acted like he was E.T., you know, saying that he was leaving, he'd never see me again, stuff like that. I felt like I was really Elliott.
In those final moments, the entire cast seemed connected in a way that they hadn't been before, especially the members of the family. Well, on another level, they truly felt like a family. This brings us to how Steven conducted his set. So this guy, he's like a big kid, right? He knows how to play, and he gives the attention to the kids that they need.
In the case where your co-star is inanimate and made of plastic, obviously he's not going to be giving you a lot off screen. So Steven would quite often talk me through the scene and tell me what was happening off screen that I was reacting to.
Look at the heart light.
E.T. phone home. E.T. phone home.
Does this
Home?
mean? Yeah.
Does this mean they're coming?
Yes.
And so when I saw the film for the first time, I was convinced that I was hearing Steven's voice over and over and over again. But of course it wasn't there. But I imagined that it was.
And he felt free to do this for a couple reasons. First, and oddly enough, he went into the production of E.T. with low expectations.
There's nothing that sets you up for failure or sets you up, for falling down more than coming to a movie with any expectations at all. Movies are so fluid. If I'm happy with the script, my only expectation is that I can make a movie as good as the screenplay. I don't ever expect to make a movie better than the script. I don't want to make a movie not as good as the script. And in that sense, I was much freer to improvise and to tap the wonders and the aptitude of these kids to make their own physical and verbal contributions to the plot, to the story, which they did daily. And because there were no high expectations, there was no pressure. And it was like having a family. It was like behaving like a family. And I was the father of that family for a long time, for 3 months. I felt like I was, Michael, Gertie, and Elliott's dad.
Secondly, his duties as a director were streamlined by the fact that, unlike previous productions where he's carrying around a full script all day and having to thumb through all the pages all the time, like, wait, what scene are we doing? He had index cards of all of his scenes for the day in his pocket. It sounds like a small thing, but it helped immensely.
And the card somehow gave me the freedom to be able to go to the kids and say, here's what's on the card, and we'll do these lines, but let's make it up at the same time. What would you say if this really happened to you?
So already, Spielberg had set up an environment where he had the time and the freedom to explore and to let the kids explore. He was always open to suggestions from the kids.
Okay.
What about this?
Oh, that's good.
One particular line from Drew Barrymore in the film was something she actually said when looking at the E.T. puppet.
I don't like his feet. They're only feet, you little twerp.
And for this scene in which Elliott shows E.T. all of his toys, Spielberg wisely just let him improvise.
These are toys. These are little men. This is Greedo. And then this is Hammerhead. See, this is Walrus Man.
I've always thought that this scene seemed especially natural, and now I know why. It's really one of the more unexpectedly touching parts of the movie. I've always wondered if E.T. recognized that Elliott was a child version of this human species he's encountered, and knows that these are all the equivalent of playthings. Or if he truly has no idea and thinks that this is what humans do. I don't know. But the whole thing is just incredibly sweet. And what can't be ignored is that natural closeness that began to develop between Spielberg and his actors. The merging of real-life bonding and the experiences of the characters led to an authenticity that just shines through in the film.
I showed Steven this, and
What is it, though?
Close Encounters doll. This doll is not supposed to wear any clothes. He's supposed to be like this. I said, well, he might get chilly sometime. And he goes, Close Encounters, guys, don't get cold. I said, oh, really? And he goes, yes. And that was over with.
For example, just all the child actors have fond memories of Halloween, right? They all dressed up, bobbed for apples, and Spielberg showed up and directed all day in costume as an old woman.
You gotta take me serious. It's Halloween, folks. My date for tonight for the costume ball.
experiences like these didn't just help the performances, it actually changed Spielberg's life and kind of prepared him for fatherhood. And eventually becoming a father arguably shifted Spielberg's sensibilities. Some of his future films ended up being more personal and sensitive.
So, Henry and Robert and Drew introduced me to fatherhood, and I think, bless their hearts, made me ready to be a father in real life. Is that for me? Thank you. Oh, it's homemade, I can tell. Thank you. But my pal, right, pal?
If you think it, the camera sees it. That is what happened here. Spielberg went above and beyond to create a safe, comforting environment for his child actors. And every kind, encouraging word he offered to Henry, every time he sat down and listened intently to Drew going on and on about how her Close Encounters doll needed clothes because he's cold. All of these little kindnesses added up to grow and foster a real relationship with his cast, both on and off screen. And the end result? You just gotta watch the movie.